So it's interesting to hear, the launch of this amazing data set or analysis capability in the UK 3 years after the US. I think you got that the wrong way around, being a Londoner. I think you should have started here and then gone to US when they catch up. And the reason I say when they catch up is the UK is per capita, the most advanced e-commerce market in the world. So the data in the UK is second to none. We think about it as the most developed market. Some of the things that we're doing and our discussions with media agencies and clients and where we are in the maturity of the market is happening in London well before it happens anywhere else in the world. This is really the centre of e-commerce and implicitly the data sets that sit underneath that, and the more and more insights as the market becomes more competitive, more and more insights required in order to deliver on the opportunities. If you look at, firstly, its growth rate, it's growing pretty fast, and secondly, it's already big. I think people assume there's a small number of people sat sort of in Soho and Clerkenwell, and that's the internet community as it was in sort of 98, 99. That's obviously not the case now. We've currently just launched a piece of work up in Liverpool. We don't know whether anyone's heard of a program called Getting British Business Online. It's for small and medium businesses. We've currently, over the last sort of 6 to 9 months, maybe a year now, we've assisted 200,000 small businesses set up websites. Because people seem to think, it takes days and months and it's going to cost me all this money. We do workshops where people come in, 20 minutes later they've got a website set up. And we're now running that for a sustained period of time in Liverpool because specifically the Northwest is underrepresented in small businesses by online presence. So specifically, in this audience, I think we know a lot of this stuff already. Businesses are driven by their behaviour online. If we look at those small businesses I just mentioned, a small business with a decent website or a web presence versus a business without a web presence has been shown to be growing 4 times faster. On average, a BCG study from last year called the Connected Kingdom, 4 times faster growth rate. But even big businesses who test and learn, like my esteemed paella cooking friend Derek mentions, test and learn, get on with it. There's no reason not to get on with it. You're never going to know. There's a sort of apocryphal story, don't know the exact number, but when our engineers set up the download Chrome page with the button that says download now, 1,500 different shades of blue and shapes of button. Why not test everything and see what comes out of it? I've got 2 different shape buttons. Why 2 different shape buttons? Why not? Obviously, it's a resource question, but drive it as far as you can. Just quickly test and learn. You'll immediately, and even if you don't find the perfect answer, you'll find a solution set, and you'll be able to say, well, something in there is telling me something useful. If you look at what pictures to what pictures, a case study we've got of the Obama campaign, what picture on the front of his website drove the most? They effectively tested and learned 8 different pictures. It was actually a picture of him with his family that drove the most additional funds into the campaign. And then some of our pure play e-commerce clients, the connections they're now making between the performance of their website through to the conversions of their sales and then conversions of their sales to their financial performance is now pretty linear. And we have clients that talk about page latency ratioed to gross profit. Is there a connection between your page not loading fast enough so people turn it off and the amount of sales you make and the profit on those sales because you're carrying the same inventory and cost of sale? Of course there is. The challenge is, how do you make that connection? Companies with older legacy systems have more challenge making that connection. Newer companies with leaner systems have less challenge. But that really, how fast and how far can you go down, reducing bounce rate, increasing conversion, all the good stuff. This is, a lot of people know it. How many people execute on it well is the challenge. And I think getting third-party analysis and assistance, who aren't media owners like ourselves, to come and help you sort yourself out and understand what good looks like. A lot of this stuff is, we think we're doing okay, we've got a website that works, and somebody says, well, what are the micro conversions? What are the 30 different things you think your users do on your website? And can you tell me how many of them did it last week? And people go, well, we got bounce rate down. We know that 70% of people leave because a location box shows up, but our software doesn't refresh for another. We've got to wait in the IT queue for another 4 months before we can change it. And you just think, well, what percentage of sales? How much money did you lose in that 4-month period when you were waiting for your development teams. So hopefully, that piece is relatively obvious to a group of people that work within digital, but taking it beyond e-commerce and ROI of a website, specifically if maybe it isn't an ROI focused, it's a social engagement platform or a product awareness platform, but looking at it offline, what's the impact now? We all know we do stuff on the internet. We all know we search for things. And I like to think about what was my last search on Google that I can tell people about. It's going to be slightly embarrassing occasionally. Currently, 1/5 of every search we see on Google every day, we've never seen before, which seems like a ridiculous statistic. You think, how can that possibly be? Billions of searches a day. You've got this whole chunk you've never seen before. Well, just to give you an example of that, last night, my 4-year-old son was playing on my 6-year-old daughter's DS, Nintendo DS, and the game she was playing is called SpongeBob SquarePants, which is a cartoon character. Basically, it's a bloke who's called Bob, who's square and has pants on, just if you haven't seen it. And at some part in the game, there's a revolving bridge. Stay with me on this one. There's a bridge that revolves, and Bob has to get across this bridge, but there's some magical trick. There's somewhere on the screen you needed to press to get Bob across it. So I find myself saying into my smartphone, game hint, how does SpongeBob SquarePants get across the bridge? And I thought to myself, there's a good example for searches that have never happened before on Google. Just in your day-to-day life, when you're today, tonight, tomorrow, next time you do a particularly ridiculous search on Google, think about what you've just added to our data set of life. But specifically for these people, people are making decisions and understanding a lot more before they get anywhere near a shop. And I haven't worked for a retailer, but this is an interesting dynamic. I bought a new TV at Christmas. I effectively went to Comet in Croydon. I live in Surrey, but I knew it was in the Comet because their website had told me it was in stock. I didn't go in there and say, I know this model's in stock. I went in there and thought, I'll wander about a bit, understand the prices, see if I can get a discount without telling him anything, that I know what price it is on his website already. Ask a couple of stupid questions. And then, so he offered me the sales price that it was in a Christmas sale. Boom, hold up my phone and say, I can go and buy this online now, 80 quid cheaper. 80 quid discount immediately in the shop, no questions asked. Done. Information that I wouldn't have had if I'd just wandered into the shop. And that's a pretty radical change. I'm sure all the good marketeers here know that 3 to 7 second first moment of truth, the show and the go. No one really engages with a product when they're paying for it. You're not stood in the queue at the checkout in Tesco's going, these bananas look great. It's not something that happens in your mind. All you're thinking is, oh no, I forgot the bags again. When you see the bananas in the counter and say, oh, I might need those bananas. That first moment of truth. Well, we now talk about the 0 moment of truth. The sat in your study at home, my wife wants to buy a new racing bike because her sort of knees are giving way from too much running. I'm already making 95, maybe even 100% of that decision process in my mind. I'm not going to buy it online because I want to go in, needs to be fitted. What other discounts can I get? Can I get anything thrown in with it, a helmet or whatever? All of that is still an offline purchase decision. That's the strategy for the digitally enabled world, not the digital strategy. It's, I go to the bike shop, I already know a ludicrous amount about this bike and the price it is in other places, the information there is around it. I don't need to be told that, I've already got that in my mind. So what am I doing, how am I engaging with that user differently? So hopefully you can all kind of relate to this in some way, that you're now more informed than you used to be before you went into a shop. The challenge is making those connections. How does that bike shop, if that bike shop was to advertise with Google or any other online media, or in fact just SEO and boost itself up the search rankings, how does it know the activity and the success? How do we know that the website of the ladies in Colombia influence the purchase decision of the person who's just walked into a corner shop in Colombia to buy a brand of beer? That's a pretty big attribution ask from any research agency. So obviously there's a number of ways you can model it. So Here's an example, Sony modelling, econometrically modelling drivers of TV sales in Australia. Okay, so paid search comes in here. You can look at it through the econometric levers and understand what's driving it from your base case. But that's always, by definition, kind of to a degree looking backwards. The world's going to change from here on out. So how do you get that real-time nature I was talking about that we were looking at with the search data and understand that from online to offline? Or you could study it, experiment. We talked about, learn and fail. Maybe do some type of A/B testing. You can multivariate test a website. You can also, as per marketing before the internet, and then nothing's changed drastically, you geographically experiment. Thankfully, with the internet, you can really geographically experiment in a pretty dramatic way with geo-targeting. We did this with Vodafone, and we showed some pretty dramatic, 400% ROI results, which are you advertise online, and you think you're driving online sales. We split the country up into 90 regions, test and control, with effectively the same markets in micro markets around the stores, and we found we were driving footfall. Well, they were driving their own footfall via our search ads, and so then they can change the multipliers they set for their online spend, and it dramatically changes how they think about is online marketing spend like this a marketing spend at one part of your P&L, or is it a cost of sale? Can you now attribute this to the offline cost of sale? But again, that's an experiment. You can do that. So, your thumbs up, world changes, and you're back to kind of square one with a model that may not exist. And this, the world is changing so fast in these industries. You could do an econometric model here, and then internet TV shows up. Or if this was PC sales over a 3-year period, and then Apple launched the iPad, the world changes pretty dramatically. Hence why you need information in real time. So we like experiments and we like data. So we've analysed and modelled this to death. We've done over 40 studies looking at the impact of search marketing on offline sales, and they offer an uplift. But again, we still haven't made the connection. So it's tempting for marketeers to say, well, that's a pretty tough attribution, specifically in an online world where people expect you, from an ROI perspective, to be able to attribute things. You've got the data. Your search teams, your online display guys, they've all been having these clicks. They've been telling you about the fact that the internet's measurable, and you've been hearing that from them for years. Now they come along and say, well, there's this lovely non-measurable bit. And that's the challenge, is how do you close the loop?